Hey guys, in this video we're going to be checking out the KingKong FPV EGG 136, and I did a video on this a while back and I just flew it stock without any modifications to the micro, and in this video I did a whole bunch of modifications and upgrades and wanted to go over all of the little things that I did to really make this thing fly a lot better than it did in the original video. Now when I first got this, I flew it out of the box with the stock PIDs and stock tune, and it flew okay. It wasn't really that great. It had a lot of potential and there were some issues, so I'm just going to go over some of the things I fixed, and I'll show you obviously a flight demo later at the end, and you can see the difference for yourself as to how much this extra work improved the flight characteristics. The card to the video for the original review will be in the corner. You guys can click on that if you want to check out the original flight footage. You can compare it to the new flight footage and see for yourself what kinds of the changes, what difference the changes made in terms of how better it performs. Now, first off, I went to different props. You can see here I'm using the KingKong 2535 four-bladed props, and primarily I did that because I went to 3S instead of 2S. It originally had a JST connector here, and I switched it to an XT30. So I could do 3S, and I went to a little bit smaller prop so that I don't tax the 10 amp ESC. That's the main reason I did that, and I think it flies better on the four-bladed prop anyway. These are the four-bladed 2535 props. The other problem I fixed was the this is the MicroSwift 2 that has the voltage sensing cable, and it wasn't connected, so the camera was actually powered off of the flight controller's BEC or voltage regulator, so it just showed like 5 volts or whatever on the on-screen display, and it never changed. And there was a blue cable, which you can see right here, that was inside this heat shrink, and so it was not attached. It didn't solder it on, so I just pulled it out of the heat shrink and then I attached it to that pin right there, and that is actually the source for VBAT. So if you solder it there, you'll get the correct voltage reading on your on-screen display for the MicroSwift 2. The other thing I did was I swapped the positions of the receiver and the video transmitter. So I think they're doing this currently on their newer models, is they're putting the video transmitter in the bottom here, and before the video transmitter was on top of the flight controller. So you have to take this whole thing apart anyway to do all these modifications. So the easiest ways to get the aluminum cage bar off is to take these 4 screws out, and then this top will come off. You can disconnect the camera, and then I had to desolder the JST connector anyway. So when you do that, you're going to desolder the video transmitter, because the video transmitter and the JST connector are soldered on together. And so when I did that, when I soldered on the XT30, I just moved the video transmitter to the bottom and resoldered on the video transmitter to the same connections on the 4-in-1 ESC. And then I just moved the receiver up to the top. I think the only soldering I had to do was the XT30 and the video transmitter. Everything else I basically just moved around, so it was pretty easy to do. And yeah, I think that's it in terms of the hardware mods. The firmware, yeah, I flashed new firmware to this, Betaflight 331, and the reason I did that is because well, you don't have to do it, but you probably want to, is when it came out of the box, it had an older version of Betaflight 317, I believe, and that was running multi-shot, and I wanted to run D-Shot 600, and if you run an older version of Betaflight and want to do D-Shot 600, you have to do a hardware mod where you cut some pins and move some wires around and stuff like that. They fixed that in Betaflight 3.3, so when I flash 331 in here, you don't have to do any kind of hardware mod at all, and it will allow you to enable D-Shot 600 and all the motors will work. So I definitely would recommend that. Flash to Betaflight 331 and then enable D-Shot 600, and then you'll have actually you don't have to do any tuning. I was going to say it'll be easier to tune, but I realized that I just forgot that I didn't tune this at all. It's just completely stock Betaflight 331 PIDs that I flew it on, and flew just fine on that. So that's another benefit, is go to 331 and then enable D-Shot 600, and you don't have to do really any tuning. I mean, I could have tuned it to get a little bit better tune out of this, but it flew just fine on the default tune. And one more modification that I should make you aware of is if you are running the FlySky version, which I am running here, it comes shipped with PPM enabled and not iBus. Now I don't know about the FreeSky and Spectrum versions and if they have that enabled as PPM or SBus. I suspect that those probably have SBus or DSMX enabled, so this is probably not relevant for you guys. But if you have the FlySky version, you definitely want to go to iBus. And what I did is on the receiver, I cut a little bit of the heat shrink away, and I moved the white wire, the signal wire, over to the pin on the far right. So let's see if I can zoom in here. Yeah, so I moved that white wire to the far right, the fourth pin over. That's the iBus pin. The pin that I was previously soldered to was the third one over next to the red wire. That was PPM. So you have to make two changes to enable iBus. You have to move the wire over to the fourth pin on the receiver, and then also move the white wire over from PPM to, it says SBus on the flight controller. So you got to make that change as well on the flight controller. And of course, enable enable iBus in the Betaflight configurator when you set up your receiver, and then you'll have less latency because PPM introduces some latency in your stick movements, and so you'll feel that it flies better on iBus versus PPM. So for you guys that are doing FlySky, I recommend making that change as well. That's optional, of course, but I do recommend you doing that. Anyway, so that's all the changes I made. I'll put a list of all the parts in the description, like the props and batteries and stuff I used. Other than that, everything was just basically the FPV egg and just moving stuff around and doing a little bit of mods and obviously updating the firmware. And I think it flies a lot better now. So go ahead and I'll show you the flight footage, and you guys can judge for yourself if a little bit of effort was worth it. And if you guys want to duplicate that work, it's pretty easy to do. You just follow the instructions I just gave. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.
No.